everybody. Welcome to InPsightRadio. I am your host, Danielle Egnew, and you are a fly on the wall too everywhere because I get a chance to look in on a little bit of everything, and I'd love to share it with all of you. So I am so excited to bring this podcast to you today. And today I'm going to jump right in because we have so much to talk about. It is so much right now. Today is a What is Crisis? State of the World address for everybody that is coming right from the angels. It's coming directly from the angels. So even though this is being recorded, we are channeling, we meaning me and these angels, are channeling live right now onto this recording. And we're just going to rock and roll this because I have been receiving so much email. Holy moly, over this last week regarding coronavirus, what's happening, is it really as bad as everybody says it is? Now we have Disneyland closing. We have parts of New York closing. Here in Montana, we had a very large regional basketball tournament that's been canceled. I mean, there's so much going on here that it's big. And this state of the world address right this second is coming through because this is really a message about what this coronavirus issue is really all about. And of course, it's about a virus, right? And you know, we covered what the virus was and where it came from and all of this. Yet there is so much fear, and I'm cracking up, gang, because here in my hometown of Billings, Montana, I flipping went to the grocery store because, we needed groceries, and you know how you do. You're like, oh, geez, we don't have any vegetables, blah. So my wife sent me packing to the grocery store to go buy some vegetables, and we literally were down to our last 2 rolls of toilet paper. Now, for a house with 3 women in it, it's myself, my wife, and of course our daughter, and she's 15, 2 rolls of toilet paper is not going to get you very far, even if everybody is being insanely sparing on their toilet paper use, okay? So I go down to the grocery store. Every ounce of toilet paper in Billings, Montana is cleaned out in this particular grocery store. Well, I'd read online people were having TP freakouts, which cracks me up again because coronavirus, people, it's all about the respiratory system and the heart. And if all we're doing is buying TP and we're not buying anything to put in our mouths and we all get sequestered to our homes, then you're going to be frying TP and eating it because, wow, roughage, right? Okay, whatever. So anyway, there's no toilet paper at this grocery store. So I thought, whatever. So I go to a CVS and I thought, people are being silly. No toilet paper at the CVS. Now this is getting serious because I just need some toilet paper for my family's house. We're not toilet paper hoarding here. I just need some TP. 1 package would be great. So then I go across the street to Walgreens, and as I walk in, there's this lady, and she's got this cart, and the cart is piled full. It's, those little bitty Walgreens, like mini carts, like somebody shrunk a real cart and makes these little mini carts. And this woman is my size. She's about 5'5". She has toilet paper stacked, like it had to have been, I am not exaggerating, 6-7 feet in the air. And she's holding on to it and it's teetering and she's pulling these giant containers of toilet paper down. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, if that woman just took every ounce of toilet paper, then I'm going to go take $5 and buy a package off of her out of the parking lot because this is getting stupid. Well, it turns out they happen to have some toilet paper left. And it was a brand I don't normally get that's a little more expensive because, come on, you wipe your bum with it. How much do you need to spend on TP? That is stupid, right? So anyway, so I buy this toilet paper. It was Angel Soft was what was left. And how ironic, right? So I bought some toilet paper and I bought 2 packages. And then I thought to myself, well, God, if we're going to be out of toilet paper in Billings, Montana for a while, Montana's not exactly on the hot trail. It's not exactly a port city, where stuff just pours on in. So I picked up like 2 extra packages of it. And I did not have near the packages this lady had, but I go up to, the cashier and she looks and she sees I have more than just 1 package of toilet paper. And she says, well, I'm asking everybody, what is your toilet paper story? And I said, honestly, I am not afraid that I'm going to get coronavirus or anyone in my family is going to get it. I just want to make sure that in the next month in Billings, Montana, that is not a hot trade port, that my family just has some toilet paper because everybody's freaking out and buying the dickens out of it. And I mean, there was tons more. I left tons of toilet paper there. I just bought a few packages of it thinking, God, people are nuts. And it really pointed out to me the nature of chaos and the nature of fear. And again, yes, the coronavirus is serious for certain people. And we don't want to be giving it to our elderly populations. And really, in my city, here in Billings, 35% of our population are retirement age people. We have a huge amount of retired and elderly people in my city. So, you don't want to go out and get coronavirus and give it to your parents or something like that, because I might be able to fight it off no problem. But somebody like my mom, who has had complex health issues on and off throughout her life, or other members of my family, they're going to have a harder time with that in their 70s. So I go home with my couple rolls of toilet paper and I explain the situation to my wife. And I start talking to this angel. And this angel says, hey, wait for the podcast. I'm paraphrasing, but wait for the podcast because I've got some things to say about the nature of this fear. And really, what this whole coronavirus thing is about. Because if you really look at this, the NBA has shut down. Disneyland has shut down. These are major revenue drivers. We are shutting down huge multi-billion dollar businesses are shutting their doors right now because of this health scare. And if you look at a place like Anaheim, California, when I lived down in LA, we used to run down all the time to Disneyland because you get a different in-state rate when you live there. So, and it's just like a fun place to go. And I cannot possibly imagine all of those hotels, all of those restaurants. I mean, everything that feeds Disneyland and really that Disneyland feeds right back, people are canceling their trips. This is going to tank Anaheim. And I got to looking at it, and, the NBA is not exactly a decrepit organization. So the National Basketball Association can probably hold itself together without selling all those tickets. But still, that puts a ding in their pocketbook, a pretty big ding when you consider that all those players are paid quite a bit of money. So when this angel was talking, and I said, well, what is this actually about then? What was dropped on my head is it is 100%, gang, the coronavirus pandemic. And now it is a pandemic. It wasn't a pandemic a couple of weeks ago. And I wanted to make sure people weren't wading out into those fear waters until they actually used the P word. Now it is considered a pandemic. And now that it's a pandemic, a major pandemic, everything is stopping. And what's stopping is the money. And what's stopping is the hustle. And what's stopping is, having to run from this place to that place. March Madness has been canceled. I mean, everything is shut down. So let's think about this spiritually. What is that about? On this podcast, I talk a lot about the fact that we are driving ourselves in this society to a pace that is absolutely unsustainable. It's not sustainable to be working 80 hours a week and then coming home and having employers expect you to text them back and work at home through your email on your mobile device. This is common in America right now. So the fact that we are being driven to a point that we can't keep up is huge. And all of a sudden, we've got this virus that just shuts everything freaking down. It shuts the consumerism down. It shuts the money down. It shuts down people being able to escape to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. It shuts it down completely. And as it shuts it down completely, we are forced to deal with our own communities. We are forced, if we're going to spend money in our communities, unless you're one of those people who are buying toilet paper on Amazon, and I hear those people are out there. So all of this fear has sat over everything. Yet I have to tell you, this angel is showing me a really fascinating resignation. And in a weird way, almost a relief. At least here in America, I am seeing a spiritual, psychological, and emotional relief, even though people are afraid. Right now, as I'm delivering this to you, I'm looking at the United States, I'm looking at the world, and there is this relief that people do not have this massive expectation on them to be places, to do stuff, to spend money, because they can't. I mean, somewhere H.G. Wells in heaven is laughing his butt off. You remember H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, right? And if you remember the story in War of the Worlds, which Orson Welles did a radio broadcast of in the 40s, and he was 40s or 50s, right in that time frame. And he was so good with the radio drama, and it was so realistic that people were tuning into the radio show. And they didn't realize that the radio program War of the Worlds, which of course the program was this guy talking about how America was being invaded by aliens and it was horrible and oh my God, the horrors and all these things he was watching and the Empire State Building just collapsed and it was a radio drama. Yet people didn't realize it was a radio drama. So people were just tuning on their radios back in the 40s, 50s, whenever that was. I want to say it was maybe the late 40s, early 50s, 50s sometime. I don't remember. Anyway, it was when people were listening to radio dramas and they were a big deal. Well, people tuned in and thought it was the news and they really believed that we were being attacked by aliens. And people just went nuts in the streets. There were people committing suicide and jumping out of buildings because they were so afraid the end of the world was upon them. Well, obviously, word got around about these people doing terrible things. And I think eventually somebody came up and said, hey, you have to, Orson, tell everybody this is a drama. It's a dramatization. People think this is real. Well, at the end of War of the Worlds, if you don't remember the story that H.G. Wells wrote, at the end of it, we couldn't defeat the aliens. They were the spacemen were too powerful for what we had in our arsenal in the United States military. And all of a sudden, their spaceships started falling out of the sky. They started just falling into buildings and just dropping out of everywhere. And at the very end, out of this crashed spaceship, comes this one weird alien who comes out and he's all sickly looking and weird and he just kind of dies. And kind of, the 1950s announcer voice comes on and announces that the aliens died from the common cold. They came to invade Earth. They had no defense against the common cold and they all died. So somewhere H.G. Wells is up in heaven going, really? Coronavirus, huh? Coronavirus? This is it, huh? This is what's shutting down the world right now. And I'm not meaning to make light of it. It is a serious illness, and it's a serious illness for a lot of people. Yet, our willingness, especially in the United States, to forego all this money and just shut everything down speaks volumes. This is what this angel is showing me about how freaking overtaxed we are day to day. And we also don't want people dying on our watch. And we don't want to create health situations where we're not being mindful of public health, obviously. Yet underneath of that is a layer of fatigue that I'm looking at here in the United States. And this fatigue is huge. As we shut down these Disneyland, I can't even remember the last time they closed Disneyland. Was it for 9/11? Did they even close it for 9/11? Honestly, I've never honestly heard of Disneyland closing. I'm sure there must have been some reason to, but this is like a really big deal. So the fact that we are now in a position where we've got this Congress, which is a Republican majority, that doesn't really believe in social assistance, and now this Congress is having to deal with social assistance because they're trying to pass bills like crazy to waylay payroll taxes for small businesses, anything to keep doors open because our money has stopped flowing. So think about the lesson. What is the lesson of coronavirus? We literally have stopped the flow of money in the country that worships money. We have stopped the flow of money in the consumerist sociopathic machine that eats money for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The whole machine is just stopped. And I am finding this to be spiritually brilliant, because what's going to happen here, and this is what I get to see through this angel, and I'm so psyched to share this with you. What we're going to see is that we're all going to pretty much figure out that we can live without pushing ourselves to the max limit. We can live without absolutely killing ourselves to make money. We can live without buying every single thing in sight. We can live without going out to dinner 55,000 times a week. We are going to show ourselves in America what it feels like to stay local, to buy local, to just, be with the members of our family night after night and play games and hang out and watch shows. We are literally teaching ourselves how to not need the sociopathic consumerist god called money and stuff. And that's what coronavirus is all about. That is literally the lesson of it. That, and we are connected. We are so connected. And every one of us affects every other one of us. And we cannot separate ourselves from one another. We just can't. And this is massive. This is huge. Because not only can we not separate ourselves from each other, but look at this giant toilet paper freak out. Okay? Do you know why people freaked out and bought all this toilet paper? I didn't. I had to ask someone. Apparently, a lot of the toilet paper is manufactured in China. So people were afraid that we weren't going to be able to get our toilet paper from China, where, the virus came from, but whatever on that logic. And so we got to go buy it up immediately because we're not going to have our stash. However, an illness in China that spreads around the world in a week's time, 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, now it's a pandemic. I mean, if you think about this, the lesson here is how interconnected are we? How much do we need each other? Hello, humanity. We need one another. We need one another a lot. We need each other. And I mean, we can't even get our TP without China, apparently. Obviously, there's manufacturers in the United States. I checked. My Angel Soft toilet paper was made in Mexico. So obviously we're going to have some suppliers somewhere. Yet I was so stunned by this very blatant message. And the lesson for a Congress that doesn't believe in social services or social helping the public, really. Now they not only are trying to pass a bill that waylays payroll taxes for small businesses, they're thinking, that we've got the Democratic wing saying, look, we need to provide people with some sort of severance while they're home because people aren't going to be able to leave and go to work. Their workplaces are closing down. We can't just close a country down and hope it still works. And, for those of you that have been following these podcasts and other work that I've done, I've been talking about how 2020 was going to really bottom out. Our money was just going to bottom out, and we were going to see a couple flirts with that in 2019. And I actually got really grumpy email from people, not only saying I was being negative, but the grumpy email was real salty, was about, oh, see, you're wrong about that. Our stock market's taken off, and so much for your angels. I'm like, first of all, they're not my angels. Secondly, wait for it, because it's coming. And now, of course, we're watching the stock market just belly right up, just go right out from underneath of everything. So not only are we experiencing we're experiencing a lot from the perspective of shutting America down, absolutely halting our cash flow. The airlines, have you noticed your spam email? Holy buckets. I fly a lot for different events and whatnot. I got this Alaska Airlines email. God bless them. Wow. And they're like, right now, fares $25 one way. You could go from Los Angeles to Maui for $99. Now, that didn't really help me because I'm up in Montana. We got to get to LA. However, I mean, the poor airline industry can't even give these tickets away. And you're reading down in there and they're saying things like, we're cool. These are movable tickets. We're happy to move them anywhere you need them to move. Don't worry about it. Blah, blah, blah. So the recession I was talking about coming in, which I was talking about in 2019, that, we're going to head right into a recession. In 2017, when I was talking about this president, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's going to usher in a recession. Just wait for it. Well, it's really the coronavirus and being ill prepared for it, which the United States absolutely is. And we don't have enough testing kits and all these things. Yet the overarching message here is that we are being shown that we don't need all this crap to live our lives. I mean, this has been a really pervasive message. It's just been coming through and coming through. I got this message when we went to Belize, and that we do not need the financial threshold that we dangle above our heads. We don't need it. We just don't need it. And I mean, do what you want with your money. Yet if you are really prostituting your spirit in order to, it reminds me of that Wham song from the 80s. Oh, I give you money. Remember that song where he's just, somebody tell me, won't you tell me why I work so hard for you? So this angel is talking today about the fact that, unfortunately, yes, we are going to have some casualties with coronavirus. And it does look like it's going to keep on a-rolling. It's going to keep on a-rolling all the way through. I'm getting like midsummer, end of summer. And so I don't know what they're going to do about closing Disneyland or, how long the NBA is going to just not do anything until a public health crisis passes. We're just getting started at this point. Now that it's in official pandemic mode, we're just getting started on the passing around of it. And hopefully people will stay home. But all it's going to take is one or two people not staying home after everybody starts going back to work, and kaboom, everybody has it. So we're going to have kind of a cool-off period, and then there's going to be some stray coronavirus out there, and everybody's going to hit the streets again, and then bang, out it's going to come. So we're going to get a break for a while. Then it looks like another wave of it comes along, and we kind of do the same thing we've done here. The federal government is, this angel is showing me, going to be enacting emergency financial measures. So they are showing me that somehow, our Republican Congress, our Republican-dominated Congress, is going to push through the rabbit hole here, taking care of people and placing some sort of stipend out there for people who can't go to work. And there are a couple of other things that I'm seeing here that are financial, yet we are going to T-bone into a big recession on this. There's no way around it. We just, you can't, when people stop spending money, the country shuts down. So here's the other portion that we move to with the lesson of this. You know how I'm always talking, gang, about the fact that we the people, we bellyache and we moan and we complain and we freak out about what Washington, D.C. is doing, and we act powerless in all of this. Yet, have you ever noticed we pay DC's bills? We pay them. We pay taxes. We pay everything. And really, it's not even about Washington, D.C. It's about the corporations. So what we're going to see is how our country just falls apart when everybody stays home and doesn't spend money and doesn't do business. Now, that's different than a recession because a recession is just people slowing down from spending money. We're still going to spend money, but it's going to be online. Yet we are going to have a spending dip that has really been unprecedented. Watch for this in the news. People are going to be doing things like ordering pizzas. They're going to be running to the grocery store and stocking up and staying home. Tom Hanks, for God's sakes. Tom Hanks and Rita Hanks have been dinged with coronavirus, and I'm sure they're going to be fine. They're under excellent care. Yet, what a weird world, right? Disneyland is closed. Tom Hanks has coronavirus. Down there on the Gold Coast, they gave him a Wilson ball, rolled it in to his quarantine room so he'd have some company, like literally a volleyball with a Wilson hand on it. It was kind of funny. I mean, it's a weird time frame. We've got Sarah Palin Good old Sarah Palin. Remember, she ran as vice president when John McCain ran for president against Barack Obama. And, she was governor of Alaska. I don't know if she's still governor or was governor, but I think of her as governor of Alaska. I want to say former governor, maybe. I'm imagining so with term limits. And apparently she was on Masked Singer dressed as a pink grizzly bear. And I guess she must have won or something because they had her take her mask off. And once they did, everybody realized it was Sarah Palin. And she sang Baby Got Back. I mean, she tore it up. I have to say, I tweeted her and I was like, girl, you did a good job with that. Way to wag it in a bear costume. That takes some guts in today's cynical and divided nation. Good for you. And of course, my inbox and Twitter, I was getting yelled at by Democrats saying, how could you talk to her? You know she stumped for Trump, and how dare you compliment her? That was appalling what she did. And then I had GOP folks hitting me up in Twitter going, are you making fun of her? We don't need your libtard, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm a musician. It takes guts to get up there as Sarah Whitey Palin in a pink bear outfit and just throw it down on Baby Got Back. And it actually didn't suck. I thought she did a good job considering, she's Sarah Palin. Come on. But I mean, the world is weird is my whole point about that. The world is weird. And pretty soon, as I look into the world, and this angel is talking to me about this, that reminds me, that was a setup for this other piece this angel's talking about. In Hollywood, we have our studio audiences. And with if Disneyland is closing down, and let me tell you, when I lived in Los Angeles, LA loves its histrionics. And if anything tips the balance of money in LA, it's so expensive to do business there, gang. If any money stops flowing in that city, the doors close immediately. I mean, I was living there during the recession of 2008. And what we're going to see with coronavirus is 9 times worse than the recession of 2008. And the government is going to do some bailouts. And the government is trying to bail out the oil industry right now because of the oil war that Putin started. And our oil prices are tanking, which again goes back to a podcast many, many weeks ago where I said, hey, if you're an investor, oil's going to be, it's just going to kind of hang in there, but it's not going to be the hot shot it used to be. However, now we're here. So as we look at the world right now, what we're experiencing is this drain of cash, and especially in cities like Los Angeles, when people aren't going out, and they won't. I mean, people in LA will stay home. This coronavirus thing is freaking that city out. And when people stay home, which they should, because there's 60 billion people in the metro LA and surrounding areas, and people should stay home. When you have that many people that on top of each other, you should stay home. It's safe to do that. Yet that means no studio audiences. So, we're going to have TV operating and we're just not going to be showing studio audiences. Watch for this, gang. We're just going to be showing the people who are actually doing the shows because the studio audiences aren't going to be allowed in. And when Los Angeles starts to lose income, and in 2008, when I lived there, within 2 weeks of a recession being announced, okay? Within 2 weeks of a recession being announced, 3/4 of Ventura Boulevard stores were closed, like with out of business signs on them, because the rent is so expensive on Ventura Boulevard. You're paying $20,000, $30,000 for a storefront that when you do not have anyone coming through your doors, those businesses were making it month after month, and especially, the small businesses. So we are going to experience a pretty big recession. And I mean, I don't even think we have a word for what's coming up. And it's part of what these angels have been showing us. We're part of a big financial cave-in or collapse, because what we've developed here in the United States, and that's what this angel is talking about, is a non-sustainable system of consumption. It's absolutely not sustainable. We don't even have landfills to throw all our crappy bottles and crappity crap in, so they end up in the ocean. It's a non-sustainable cycle. So as this angel is talking to me about what the overarching lesson of coronavirus is and where we're at now with this pandemic and what's going on in the state of the world, other global economies are doing exactly what we're doing. The whole entire world, for the most part, is stopping. So in these weeks to come, I really want you to feel into the world. I want you to feel what it feels like when there are less flights over the top of your head. I want you to feel what it feels like when there is less freneticism in your town. And you hear this all the time. You hear people, especially if they're over the age of 60, saying, man, I really wish the way the world used to be. When we'd sit down and we'd talk to each other and we'd have a family dinner, I really miss the way the world used to be. And obviously the world used to be pretty crappy because we had civil rights issues and gay people were being killed and, things weren't always so good in the good old days. Yet when we talk about interpersonal connection, I got to give it to pre-1989 America. Once the 90s hit and we got the internet, things started getting weird. So we are going back to a time frame of direct connection with those in our closest spheres. This is a time frame of reconnection with family. This is a time frame of realizing that we don't have to spend gazillion dollars just to have fun. We literally are going to retrain ourselves as a world, as a United States economy, as a global economy. We're going to retrain ourselves on what it is to be alive in America. And, since we discussed on some podcasts in the not so distant past, present, future, they're angels, they see it all. We discussed the fact that money not only was going to be tanking and tight and weird, yet the way we used it was going to be different and that we would be doing a lot of barter and a lot of trade. So let's think about this a minute. So I'm sitting here in my house and coronavirus, as it's now gotten to a pandemic level, we are trying to take measures to keep people home so it doesn't blow out. Today on our show, which is the 12th of March, 2020, we do not have any documented cases of coronavirus in Montana yet, but that is one of the very few states. I think Maine is another one, and there's just a handful of states. Now, we could have it here, yet we have so little people. We're the fourth largest state in the union, and we have 1 million people, just over 1 million. So we got a lot of land, a lot of cows, a lot of beautiful views, not as many people. Where I live in Billings, we're the largest city in the entire state at 110,000 people, maybe 140 with surrounding areas. And so Billings is, for this area, a big city, don't you know? Yet, when we're dealing with places like Wyoming or Montana, coronavirus is likely not going to spread through here like wildfire because you have to travel with it over hundreds of miles to find the people to give it to, and then it takes off. So I'm not saying somebody couldn't land here and infect the whole population, or we might even have it now. But because we have a low population density, it's not like we have coronavirus kits blowing off the doors right now. There's other parts of the country that need them more than we do, and they should have them. Yet, if you think about the overarching lesson of this, besides slow down long enough to wash your hands for freaking 30 seconds, think about that. Come on now, I know you've done this. Like stood there counting to 30 while you're washing your hands going, oh my God, I'm going to be here till Jesus comes back again. Why is 30 seconds so long? What the hell? God, I could have listened to a book on tape doing this. I don't really understand. 30, really? Okay, no, I got to get under my fingernails. Oh God, seriously, how much cleaner can my hands be? 30 seconds. 30 seconds is a long time when you wash your hands. And I made myself do it. I made my daughter do it. My wife was doing it. But think about the lesson of that. We don't even give ourselves half the time 30 actual seconds to wash our hands. I'm not suggesting we're all gross and just, leave the bathroom without doing it. Come on, be honest. 30 seconds, to sit there and count it out. I literally had to put my iPhone on timer because I couldn't gauge 30 seconds of hand washing. I just felt like I was there for an eternity. So when our society is going so quickly that 30 flipping seconds is a cough up in your day, there's something wrong. And this is what this angel is expressing. This angel says, to you a great gift is given, for this connection upon you is what heals your world. This grand heart that is shared is the basis of all futures. This is your wealth. And basically this angel is just going on and on and on about reconnect with one another. This angel just says, for the fortune seen by those whose eyes are short. And that means, doesn't mean they have short eyes. It means that they're not looking at the future. Okay. They said, this upon them falls the illusion of loss. For none is lost and none is gained for that which does not exist. Oh, jeez, that's kind of heavy. These angels are talking about the fact that money is an energy. It's not even actually real. So when we're looking at the stock market and we're watching it go up and then we watch it go down and people say, oh my God, I've lost millions of dollars. Did you? Was that even real money? Because it's just numbers. It's the stock market surfs opinion and the stock market surfs people's willingness to participate with something. It is the ultimate popularity contest. And we keep thinking that the stock market is going to make us money. Yet what we're going to learn through this coronavirus experiment is that the stock market doesn't make us money. Our interest in something makes us money. What we decide is important, therefore holds value. So think about this world. What we think is important, therefore holds value. What if we decide what's important is quality time at home instead of working our butts to death? What if we decide what's important, the greatest currency we have in our life is connection with one another instead of the old 9-to-5 grind? What if we decide that those things are the most important? Then the illusion of the stock market, I'm going to make my millions. Okay, well, maybe you will. Or maybe it's just going to bottom out. Or maybe it dwindles down to the original amount of money you put in the first place. Yet none of it was real. That's what this angel is talking about. To you all peace is delivered, for the stillness of the mind and the heart is the greatest gift of the one that is all, indigenous to all matter, all beings, all kinds. Pretty much this angel is saying, hey, the God within, the Mother, Father, God within, universe within, quantum field, the connectivity, the good vibes between all of us, it is indigenous to us all. And this is what connects us to one another. Is not money, is not our stock market. This angel just says, for all is saved. This is the way of it. This is the death of the old world. And what they mean by all is saved, for all is saved, they're talking about the fact that what's saved is our hearts, our minds, our spirits, our endocrine systems, which we are burning out at breakneck pace, trying to keep up with a world that we can't keep up with anymore. And now we're all sitting home eating pot pies, using our toilet paper as a burger lounger because we're afraid to go outside because we might get coronavirus. I mean, if you look at the brilliance of this tiny little thing that we can't even see, even has a president of the United States who loves to create his own realities and preach them on national television as if they are real. It even has him stammering and stuttering and freaked out, and he can't just shove this one under the rug when the whole world is shut down from a teensy tiny virus that he can't control, he can't buy it, he can't gaslight it, he can't do anything, he can't convince people it's not real because the World Health Organization and CDC already came out and said, yeah, it's real. I mean, think about the brilliance of this opportunity. We have an opportunity to grow past our hubris, USA. We have an opportunity to remember what truly is our heart. which is the connection of our people. The connection of our people are the heart. And I am fascinated and saddened, of course, by the thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of people who've died from this disease, especially in China. Yet I am fascinated by the blatant spiritual message that is so obvious that creation just might as well have skywrote it, saying, hey, humans, unplug, slow down. Y'all are killing yourselves. And what is the only thing we pay attention to and gets our full attention? The thought of us being dead. And I really wish that that was not our primary motivator. And one of these days, humanity's vibration is going to be such that what's going to want to inspire change out of all of us are tremendous connections with one another and the hope and possibilities that we can potentially bring into the world. Yet right now, we're still operating off of an old world system that's extincting itself. I mean, we're watching it extinct itself. And again, the lesson for this and what these angels are talking about, oddly, has a really, really big silver lining on it, even though in the middle of the fluff, we've got some, pretty hefty recession or whatever they're actually going to call it, and a world recession. And we've got some pretty hefty illness, and we do have some losses of life. And we see the disease spread around. We have almost 8 billion people on this planet, gang. That's a lot of people. And so I feel badly for our more impoverished nations like India and China. And I mean, it's interesting. I have not heard a whole lot about the coronavirus down in India and these very densely populated places. I'm very interested to see how the virus fares and what it does. And it's very interesting, too. A lot of Indian food has natural antiviral agents in it. And so you will hear about terrible plagues ripping through England or ripping through Italy or whatever it is, some European corridor. You don't hear a lot about giant plagues, besides leprosy and awful stuff like that, ripping through India. And obviously they do. And I think one of the reasons we don't hear as much about India is they are not our primary trade partners. Therefore, we don't tend to apparently care about their populations as much as a superpower who's super focused on first world nations that deal in oil and high commerce. And, I'm not speaking down to India, of course. I'm just simply saying that it's very difficult when we look at the countries where the population densities are, because we're going to be seeing a lot of loss of life in those areas. Yet, at least for India, way to go with your antibacterial ingredients, gang. I mean, it's just natural. And literally, when you're talking about curry, it's medicine. It's medicine for the body. It's pretty incredible. So this time frame that this angel is referring to it's a little bit weird. It's a little off kilter. It's a little unusual. It can be scary if we choose it to be scary, yet I would highly recommend that we choose education over fear, and we choose temperance over knee-jerk, freak-out, chaotic, wacko weirdness. And I think it's really important that we remember that the message here is to slow the F down and to be with the people who matter and to not have to blow out our life savings on absolutely everything that's around us all the time. We don't need to do that. We just don't. And we're also going to see there's going to be health considerations here too, because as there's farmers, as people are staying home, big slaughterhouses, our food market is going to get weird and going to get wobbly also. Because when you go to grocery stores, if people aren't going out to the grocery stores as much, and they're not buying as much food, then there's spoilage. There's all kinds of things that can go south. Now, we're not there yet, but these are scenarios that this angel is showing me. And again, we can call it a recession, but it's way more than that. This is a world restart. It's a world commerce restart. The last time we had a pandemic was a flu in the early 1800s. And I believe I told this story in another podcast, so I'll keep it short. But my grandpa's uncle, Dominic Gesuale, was an immigrant from Italy, and to survive the pandemic flu, he was working on the railroad. And to survive, he made his own homemade wine, and he just drank a couple of gallons of it and passed out for 3 days. And because he drank all that wine, I mean, literally, he pickled the virus. He killed the virus with alcohol in his body. His wine was pretty hefty. And when he woke up, the virus was dead. He had lost all of his hair. He had lost his eyebrows, but he was alive. You know, whatever this did, it just shocked his system so badly. So obviously, pandemics come and go. It's interesting. This particular pandemic was predicted by Sylvia Browne. She's got this book out that she put out before she passed away that was all about, prophecies and the end of the world and all this big, heavy stuff and, stuff that we all get shown in this field. And for some reason, Sylvia felt prompted to write it all down. And that's not exactly my calling. It doesn't mean I don't see it, but it's not exactly relative to my work. My work is how we can all get engaged and bring about the evolution of the human species in the most incredible way possible and get those vibrations up and build this new world and how we stay engaged rather than looking at all the, mud hitting the rearview mirror, 50 years from now. My work is, hey, let's change that Let's change that projection. Let's change that prediction because not everything is imminent. So Sylvia Browne in this book wrote that in 2020, there would be a world pandemic that would be like pneumonia, and it would affect people to such a degree that, it would literally kill people. So, it was one of those situations where she saw it, she predicted it, it came to pass. I only know about that because my buddy, Greg Grunberg, he's an actor, and you have seen him in a million things. God, everything from Heroes. He played Matt Parkman, the psychic in Heroes, the telepath. And he was, of course, in the Star Wars, the last Star Wars, where he was a TIE fighter pilot and he died a hero in that, and rock on, dude. Anyway, he had that on his Instagram. If you want to follow a fun Instagram, my bud Greg is funny. He's got a fun Instagram. But he had this page circled, okay? Now, things like pandemics kind of fall into somewhat of a cause and effect margin in future casting, because when we're talking about having tens of thousands of people die, we are talking about a population culling. We are talking about many people leaving the earth. That changes countless timelines at one time. Really, and the people who leave during a pandemic. Not to say that any of us want to get sick or any of us want to die. And a little of this message is a bit over my pay grade. Okay, so I'm going to do my best with it. Yet when we transition in something like a pandemic, those folks who go are generally older souls. They don't need to do the whole 90-year tour here to get their PhD in human foibles. They can get out of here a little earlier. And they take that opportunity to be able to leave behind more resources for people. They take that opportunity to gift more space in the world. So again, not that I'm trying to martyr these individuals. And of course, death is tragic no matter what. As my Grandpa Louie would say, I'm not trying to polish a hot turd here. I'm just literally saying that when you're dealing with people leaving in such en masse like this, there are generally reasons on a cosmic level, on a collective level, and on a karmic level. And these souls who are choosing to leave right now, they also don't have to be here to clean up on aisle 9. And the rest of us that are staying have chosen to be part of that cleanup crew. And so that's what this angel is also talking about. This angel is saying, the evolution that is upon you, this which is petitioned, rejoice, for all is at hand that you have desired. What that basically means is, hey, everybody, guess what? Everything you've been hoping for, everything you've been praying for, There have been so many prayers, gang, that have hit the quantum field, that have hit the ethers, some of them saying, "Dear God, if you can hear me, please save this world. We are on a collision course from hell with doom and gloom. Do whatever you got to do to save us." There are people out there saying, "Look, I don't even believe in a God, but if something's listening, F you, first of all, for getting us to where we're at and allowing this to happen. Secondly, if you are listening and if you even care, can you do anything about this?" Now, I'm not suggesting that God sent coronavirus. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that our collective need to pull the emergency brake in a world that has flown off its axis into cray-cray land, that affects the quantum field. That is the petition this angel is talking about, that goes out, this battle cry of somebody please put the brakes on. We can no longer sustain ourselves in this particular illusion that we've created. Literally. So that's what's happened. I mean, we collectively as a human species have thrown the emergency breakdown, and it has come in a non-form of war. It's not a political revolution. It's not political at all. It forces us to get past our politics. The emergency brake that we threw out there, I can't tell you how many prayers I hear. Not that I'm God. Yep, they're like stray radio transmissions, like if you ever had an old CB radio in the 80s and 70s, like your dad had, and you plug it in and you just catch all this weird cross chatter. And I'm not saying I hear everybody's prayers, yet I do pick them up occasionally, just little pieces of them. And it reminds me of the last scene in It's a Wonderful Life where everybody's praying for Jimmy Stewart. That montage scene where they're like, "Dear Lord, please help, blah, blah, blah." That's what it sounds like, only it's just layered and layered and layered and layered and layered. And people are saying, stop the craziness. We can't sustain it any longer. And so they're also saying, please, can't we just get along politically? They're also saying, please, universe, can't we just return to being kind to one another and understanding what's important? They're saying, please, universe, here in the United States, there's a lot of these prayers, saying the person I voted for has gone off the rails. Can you please do something about this? Because I don't even know and I'm feeling hopeless. And there's also those prayers that are like, hey, can we please hope that Nancy Pelosi gets, coronavirus and dies because she's obstructing justice and oppressing our president. I mean, believe me, prayers go in all directions. So if you think about this, though, think about what we've done. What's come about on the earth? The earth is stopping. The chaos is stopping. We are all having to take remarkable responsibility for ourselves, for our loved ones, where we decide to go in a day. We are all having to say, oh my God, I can't just blame somebody and run off and get a McDonald's and not think about life and zone out on Netflix and rinse and repeat tomorrow. I've got to wash my hands for 30 seconds. 30 super long seconds. We are being shoved in the now like you cannot believe. And I'm not saying that we wished coronavirus on ourselves, and I'm not saying that God stuck us on it like a plague. I mean, gang, listen, our planet is heating up. Let me just tell you a little something here. And out of the permafrost is going to come some really odd bugs that came in on asteroids 80, 100,000 years ago that have been frozen under those ice caps. And that we as modern generation human beings do not have resistance to. And they're going to hit the air and they're going to be airborne. But we got a good 10, 20 years before that really is down the pike. So don't freak out about that right now. This is training wheels for when those times come about. How do we as a species stick together? You know what we're going to learn in the next 3 or 4 months? We're going to go through our silly, stupid period where we hoard toilet paper and shake our, fist at God and all that stuff. But you know what we're going to learn? We're going to learn that we can depend on one another. We are going to learn to care for one another. We are going to see the best of humanity come forward after we see some kind of stupid stuff looting and blah on the news. Just get past that part. We are going to see amazing, not just potential, but action come out of the human race. Well, why? Because we learn through doing. And we do have some real nasty bugs that are going to come up through that permafrost and are going to come in through the ice that's melting off of Greenland and get in the ocean and do weird stuff to stuff in the ocean. And this is coming in the next 10, 15 years. Give or take some change. So we are working together to come out of our self-induced ego hazes that are individual pods of non-connection. And we are going to learn to work together. And we're going to start to trust one another. And, I know there's a lot of people out there that love to hate the federal government. They love to hate the Democrats. They love to hate the Republicans. My God, the current person who is occupying the space of presidency right now in the United States is really just making it hard to give the guy a hug. He's making it hard to root for him. Yet even the president at this last delivery of, State of the Union kind of, hey, guess what? This is what's going on. He was pale. He was short of breath. He was scared. Because for the first time in Donald Trump's life, he is the target demographic for something that could kill him, that he can't hire a fixer to shut up. He can't hide behind a wall of money. He can't decide to take off to Mar-a-Lago and leave it all behind in D.C. It's like this flitting, weird spirit of death that could come for him at any moment. And that man is utterly terrified. So please send him love. Because can you imagine being able to buy your way out of anything ever? Rape? Good Lord, extortion? I mean, you could buy your way out of anything, but you can't cheat death. So America's going to do a lot of changing for the positive, gang. The world is going to do a lot of changing for the positive. What we're going to see in the meantime is we're going to see a little ugliness and a little looting and a little weirdness and, where's the food coming from and what border are we closing? And it's going to get a little, it's kind of meh. But I'm not focusing on that right now because this angel is not as much talking about the future as they're talking about why we're here right now. And I said this in my video in 2016, way back in 2016. You can find it on my YouTube channel where I was talking about it being feminine time frame and Hillary Clinton becoming the president. And the fact that no time frame, no timeline supported a Trump presidency. And my God, this guy has just been having problems ever since he got in. But if you listen through that entire video, I say over and over again, back in 2016, it doesn't matter who is president. This is the time frame where we, the people, come together and we will change the United States. And it didn't exactly take the turn we all thought it would take, or many of us thought it would take. Yet look what's going on right now. We're back in our kitchens. We're back in our homes. Call people. Reach out to people. Work on projects around your house that you haven't done in years. Tap your inner artist, right? Do something that you normally would never do because you're running off somewhere to do something else. And feel the world. Feel past the surface level of fear. And while you are peaceful, fill that void that's around you that's normally full of freneticism and chaos. Fill it with love. Think about the whole globe. Think about hugging your neighbors. Think about how no one deserves to die from this disease. Nobody. Think about how scary that would be if you lost people to it. Perhaps you have lost people to it and your hearts are broken. Fill that void with love for your planet, with love for the fact that you can be in the moment, with love for the fact that you can feel this angelic transmission coming through this podcast, with love for the fact that you are part of the solution, with love for the fact that you are part of what creates the most resonant upswing and evolution that really this world has ever felt because we've never had this many people on it. Think about how blessed we are to experience such a transitional time. This is something to reflect upon. This is the gift, if there can be a gift, from a god-awful, deadly pandemic. And it's really only deadly to some people, but that's still deadly. If there can be a silver lining, it's that we are being taught how to not only just be human again, but how to love being human again. And how to love our fellow humans that are trying so desperately to remember how the heck it even feels to be a human being, to not just stand for some political ideology, to not just stand for some bank account, to not just stand for some IRA, but to, honest to God, stand on the ground and be exactly where you are right now. We are so powerful together. Please be well. Keep yourself safe. Reflect on the things in your life that are beautiful. Absorb and accept this lesson in being. Return to the world great love, great optimism for the future. Because for those of us that remain on this earth, we are the next greatest generation. And we will all build this world together. Go be well. And I will see you next week.